morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to BYP TV and to the Vitality Hour. As you know, my name is Dr Gill Barnham, and we are here, back in one of my favourite places in the world. We're at the Millennium Chelsea Harbour Hotel in the centre of London, and we're recording in the height of summer, so it's a little bit hot everywhere. We've had the most glorious time here in the UK, and I hope you've had a brilliant time wherever you live too. So, the Vitality Hour, what's that all about? Well, my real passion is as a mental and social health prevention advocate. And so this show is all about helping you, the listener, to either be exposed to amazing experts in conventional, complementary and alternate fields of health and well-being, so that you can learn other ways in which you can maintain or achieve elite health. But also I bring on special guests on every episode, and some of those people have the most extraordinary stories to tell, and I've got one of those people who's going to be joining me today here as well. And every show, we have a bit of a theme. But before I start on my theme today, I'm going to do one of my favourite sections of the show, which is called Jill's Gems. Jill's Gems. And this is the moment when I answer a question from one of you lovely listeners that has either written in or phoned in or emailed in and asked me a question. And because we're in the height of summer, this question is actually around moles. Yes, moles. And I've chosen it today because you probably can't see, but I'm a super moly person, and all my family are. And my mother actually was also very moly, and she developed a malignant melanoma in her 50s. And in fact, if you've read my book, if you haven't read my book, part of my story in this book is regarding my mother, who died at 56, and she died actually of a pulmonary embolus 3 days after she'd had a malignant melanoma operated on. So you can probably understand that moles and skin cancer are very close to my heart, and something that you know, I'm very keen to inform people about and to tell people how to manage, if you like. And so this question came from Susan. So Susan said, well, you know, she's very moly too, and she's a little bit concerned about how, particularly at this time of year with the sunshine, that she manages them. So I've just got 4 steps for you, Susan, and anybody else that's listening, that you need to be mindful of if you do have any moles. So first of all, we're not talking about the little freckles that are around. Really, these moles are the ones that are sort of bigger than the end of a blunt pencil, something like that. So those are the moles that we're going to concentrate on. So the best thing to be able to do is either yourself or with somebody that knows you quite well, depending on where your moles are, is to take a record of any moles that are slightly bigger. So you can take a picture of them so that you can monitor their size. You can even put a little ruler next to them so that you can just have a kind of gauge really about how big these moles are. And then what you need to be able to do is just to check them regularly. So not only for size, so are they growing, but also for their shape. So a non-malignant mole will be even, it'll have even edges, but a mole that is turning into a cancerous or melanoma, that will be much more jagged around the edges. So you need to be able to monitor that and make sure that the moles are not turning from this lovely spherical shape into something that's more jagged. You also need to monitor the colour of the moles. So if they change in any way, so perhaps if they're one colour and they turn into 2 colours, so maybe various different colours of browns, or they may even appear a little bluey, they might have some bluish hints in them. And definitely the one thing that you really need to be very, very quick and act on is if any of these moles itch or bleed at any time. So if any doubt, then go to your GP and he will help you to monitor your moles. So just go and have a checkup. It's perfectly an acceptable thing to do, or your physician if you're in the US or wherever you are, go and have your moles checked, and then don't be shy about going back if you're concerned. But if they're itching or bleeding, then you really need to go straight to your physician. At this time of year, here in the UK, you need to be making sure that you use a 30 SPF. So that's at least a 30. I actually use a 50, particularly on my face. And you need to reapply that every 3 hours. And if possible, make sure that you stay out of the sun in those hours between something like 11 and 2 or 11 and 3. So Susan, I hope that's really helpful to you. The most important thing is you don't let your skin burn at any time. And if you have had periods of burning, when you were a child, or perhaps a few years ago, you are going to be much more prone, definitely. So avoiding burning the skin is really, really important. So every show, or perhaps every other show, I like to bring to the fore something that I've seen on the television or read in the newspaper or on the radio, whatever it is. And I thought this was quite relevant because I wanted to talk to you about medication. Now, if you're anything like me, I really avoid medications as much as possible. But there are times when they are a support for you, and if you prescribe them, there are times when it's appropriate. But what I wanted to be able to bring to light is the pricing of these medications that you can go in and get at your pharmacy or your, over the counter or whatever. Because, for example, at the moment, we're recording in the summer, one of the things that sometimes you might be going out and purchasing is your hay fever tablets. So whether that's a citrazine base or a loratadine base, you can go and buy these, as you know, or you can be prescribed them, and a lot of people go in and buy them, or indeed you can get them online. And I've just got some interesting facts here for you about the various different costs of hay fever tablets. I mean, this counts for any kind of medication, to be honest with you, whether it's painkillers or anti-inflammatories, whatever it might be. The difference between a proprietary blend or one that you might recognise and then brands that you don't recognise are quite enormous. And for example, Becco Allergy, so this is a very common brand here in the UK, you're paying 33 pence per tablet for a Becco Allergy. That's one a day of a 10 milligram tablet. Something like a citrazine, so this is a citrazine based product. Something like a brand out of one of our local pharmacies, like Boots, you're paying 19 pence for a pill, just exactly the same. And if you go online, you can get a whole year's supply, and they work out at 2 pence each. Now, these tablets, these little pills, are not just like each other, they are exactly the same. Exactly the same. They've got something called a PL code. And if you look on the back of the packet, that PL code will be exactly the same for the Becco Allergy, for the Boots version or the local pharmacy version, and for this version that I found online. So it's exactly the same pill. It's just that one is 33 pence and one is 2p. But what's really interesting about this is the research that's done around it, because there is much evidence to suggest, and it's been proven actually, that the branding of whatever pills you take, the packaging, the reputation of the company, makes these pills actually work much better for the majority of people. Isn't that extraordinary? So you can be taking exactly the same medication, but because it's a branded product, you will get much more benefit out of it. Something like 76% of people will find much more benefit from the branded product. And this is because it's about your perception and about your beliefs. It's absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the chemical makeup of this product. It's about your belief, and it's something to do also with the placebo effect. And in the UK, people respond to pills in terms of placebos. Interestingly, in the USA, there is a greater placebo effect for people who take injections. I think it's probably something to do with getting a shot. That's a very common, much more common in America to go and get your flu shot or go and get this shot. In the UK, we're much more into pills rather than taking injections. So it's got something to do with the branding. It's got something to do with your belief about whether or not what you're taking is going to help you. But it's also got to do with, of course, the person who's perhaps prescribing it to you. So if you've got more faith in your physician, if you've had an appointment and they have been attentive to you, they've listened to you, they've appeared to empathise with you, then that prescription is likely to work better for you than if you've gone into a consultation with somebody that's perhaps not being quite as empathetic. And so what's really interesting about this is that it means that this is real evidence that the content of your mind affects your biochemistry. The placebo effect is scientific evidence that the body knows how to heal itself. So in other words, those pills that are taken as a placebo, or the shot that is taken a placebo, clearly there is nothing at all chemically beneficial in a sugar pill or an injection of water. But it's the mind itself that overcomes the disease or the distress or the illness. And this is absolute proof that for us, our biochemistry is much more driven by what we think and our emotional and social circumstances than actually the physiological effects of disease on our body. Fascinating, isn't it? And one of the things that we're going to talk about specifically today is the effect of trauma on our body. Because you see, physical and mental trauma, whether it was from the past or whether it's something that you're suffering now, is actually held in the cells of the body. If you are unable to release that trauma, to release the distress or the stress of what's going on at the moment or something that's happened to you in the past, that trauma will manifest itself in a variety of different ways. So it will manifest in physiological ways in terms of disease that you might recognise. So that might just be a lack of energy or lethargy or real extreme tiredness, even leading to things like chronic fatigue syndrome, for example. It could be that it would lead to physiological changes like pain or a low blood pressure. It could be that trauma held in the cells leads to a much more mental manifestation in terms of low self-worth or depression or feeling suicidal. But conversely, there is some sort of trauma, and some people react to trauma more differently than the other, that create this fight or flight reaction. And so those kind of people are kind of on all the time. They're on high alert, if you like, because that's what the flight or fright reaction does. You're either going to run away from something, or you're going to be completely still and paralysed by what's going on. And that type of person is the one that will manifest in things like gut problems, chronic pain, insomnia, for example, being restless and jumpy, all of those kind of manifestations. Or in terms of emotional things, they will have anxiety attacks or panic attacks. They will be very prone to going into anger very, very quickly. So anything that is underlying your own physiology, for example, can be sparked and will be made bigger, if you like. So if you are prone to being in that trauma reaction of anxiety and fear and panic, you are much more likely to go into that state very quickly. If you are much more prone to be paralysed and be in that depressive state, then anything that happens to you will drive you down further into that state as well. So nobody can really predict what's going to happen to you if you do suffer with a trauma, but actually in the event it's really still labelled as PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And we're going to talk about that today. And before I bring my special guest on, who's specifically here to talk to us about PTSD, I just want to cover one thing really, that PTSD is often referred to specifically for veterans, for war veterans. So I would certainly have thought of that a few years ago. PTSD, that's what I think about. But actually PTSD, and we're going to talk about this today, is for everybody in the population. It's for children, for women, for men. It's not necessarily to do with war at all. It could be something as simple as being bullied at school, suffering a death of a loved one. But even something like a simple childhood trauma can really manifest itself as PTSD. So anything that is traumatic for you as a person has those four elements. It's something that was unexpected, it's something that is isolating, it's something that you feel powerless to be able to do anything about, and it's something that makes you feel very, very alone. So I've brought on a special guest today that I met at the Women's Economic Forum in Birmingham fairly recently with my wonderful friend Dr Neslin Watson-Gray, who actually did the foreword of my book. Oh, Neslin, I love you. And so I brought David on today because he has a specific project and something to tell us about relating to this really, really important subject. So welcome to the show, David.
Thank you very much for inviting me on.
Yeah, very welcome. It's wonderful here in Chelsea.
Beautiful.
Yes. I think we've avoided the crowds that are down here today. I think there's quite a lot going down here down in London today.
Wimbledon going on.
Yes.
I was walking past the football stadium and they're going to get their season tickets and everyone's still got a happy smile on their face. It's lovely.
Yes. We're here really to talk about a little bit of unhappiness as it happens, and to address what is increasingly becoming a subject that more and more people are talking about,
Correct.
Which is mental health.
Before I talk about that, you touched on a part before about children.
Yes.
Our younger son Oliver, at 9 months old, was taken to Great Ormond Street. He had a growth on the liver. And fortunately it was a non-malignant growth, but he ended up in intensive care. And everyone thinks intensive care is a very quiet place. It's not.
No.
And as he got older, if he had thunder, if he heard a balloon going off, any loud noises, he would literally freak out.
Oh, startled.
And it took a long time to realise, to work out that it was the noise in his subconscious, the noise of being in Great Ormond Street.
Wow.
And he had no, obviously as a child, these noises were going on and he just absorbed them.
Wow.
And he related those noises to pain.
To pain.
And if it was fireworks, we had to have headphones on him, he had to have music going. He couldn't stand that noise.
Wow. And how old was he? 9 months old?
He was 9 months old.
So that really relates to that trauma that's held in the cells, isn't it?
And people don't realise it's there.
No.
I mean, my story, to some people it's horrendous and it's awful. But actually, what happened to me has helped me make me the person I am today. And so when I talk about this, I never want people to go, oh, woe is David. It's not correct. Until I was 14, my life was pretty good. I enjoyed life. I had an older sister, younger brother. And at 14, my life changed. It will never be the same. 14 is a horrible age for everybody. But according to the children in my class, I committed 2 horrendous crimes. One of birth and one of choice. The enlightened children in my class discovered I was Jewish. Funny that, they had been in my mitzvah the year before, and as they gave me a good kicking for being Jewish, they claimed that I had personally killed Jesus Christ. And it didn't help, because I was a bit lippy, and I said, but I don't know the dude! As they gave me some more kicking. That might survive that bit, but then they discovered my dreadful, dreadful secret. And I got a SASTA job. And that was a shampoo boy in the local ladies' hairdressers.
And that was your secret?
That was my secret, which according to the enlightened children of my year, made me queer.
Okay.
And in the 70s they had this wonderful habit called queer bashing. Now at 14 I was just discovering girls. I had no inclination into boys. In fact, I'd been brought up quite nice, and I had never even heard of homosexuality at that point. But I got kicked and punched every day at school for 2 years. I went from enjoying school and wanted to be involved with vets and that sort of area of science to can't wait to leave. And it was decided when I was 15 I'd be a great hairdresser. But if I saw the bullies on the streets, I would cross the road. In fact, it was a bit poetic case of justice. One day, one of the bullies came to the salon I was working, and he was a photographer. And he was in the 70s, as I said, long flowing hair. It is his trademark. And I was asked to cut his hair.
Tempting.
I'm holding a pair of scissors, but I thought, no, I'm trained, I'm a professional.
Yes, I'm a professional.
And what he said to me was interesting. He said, where have you been, David? I said, well, we've missed you. You were such a laugh at school. You were always up for a crack. Whatever, it was fun. You gave as good as you got. I'm going, that's not what I remember.
It's not your perception. Yeah.
Fortunately, I then met my wonderful wife. We got married. It's great. Had 2 boys, as I said, Oliver and 9 months old. And then Philip, when he was 6, was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and at 9 he had to have his large intestine removed.
Mm.
And all the time this pressure is building and building and building. And I'm thinking, why is it my fault? Why is it always happening to me?
Yeah.
But, hello darling, smile. Then my beautiful wife got breast cancer, diagnosed with breast cancer. And I got to the point, I'm thinking, I can't handle any more of this. And I sat in the car one day, and I thought, there's a wall over there. What happens if I drive into that wall? And then I thought of the consequences. I couldn't do it. And I was dragged kicking and screaming into counselling. And over some very intense sessions, I began to break down the reasons for my actions. But even then, I still didn't do anything about moving it forward. I got rid of the past. I just brushed myself off and got on with it. Because what could I do? I've got a family, I've got children with it, but I wasn't happy in life. Even though I've had all this, I could recognise this, and I began to understand about positive and negative energy and mindfulness. But what could I do?
Yeah.
Until 2015, the year after they'd done the Ice Bucket Challenge.
Oh, yes.
I ended up doing it twice because my wife forgot to push the film on. Hot August day, and anyway. They came out of America a thing called the 22 Press Up Challenge.
Right.
What they said was 22 ex-service men and women a day take their own lives due to combat PTSD. Well, I thought 22 days, okay, and the problem is it didn't really work the way it should be, because the idea was you did 22, you put it onto social media, the film, and you nominated someone. So like I said, so they put it.
All right, so like the Ice Bucket Challenge, you do your 22 22 press-ups for 22 days,
and every day you nominate.
And you nominate them.
And the problem is, unlike the Ice Bucket Challenge, a lot of people couldn't be bothered to do the press-ups, or they were already doing it,
or they couldn't do it,
or they couldn't do it. There was just, but anyway, I kept thinking that's 8,030. So I'm going to go for 365 days, hence the 365 challenge.
Okay.
Because I want to do something more. Has to do something to honour these people. But then I suddenly thought, hold on a minute, that's just American troops. What about British troops? What about people like me, or Oliver, my son, or Philip, my other son, who had, and he still has occasional problems, or Melanie, or thousands of people. The people, let's take Westminster Bridge last year. You have the survivor of the incident. You're going to have those who watched and didn't do anything because they didn't know, they're scared. You then have the group who ran away because that's what they're being told by the police. And then you have those who watch from afar. They watch it on TV. They watch it, and it's for them, but something will have happened to them in their past. They may not remember it, but the trigger has been caused.
Yeah.
In the UK alone, in 2016, it was something like 6,500 people took their own lives. 4,000 plus were men. Women and girls seem to be better at coping and handling that. 25% of all deaths are the direct result of mental ill health. 10,000 ex-bodies have now been diagnosed. They think within the next 10 years, following last year's 5 atrocities, one of the better word, I don't know anything else to call it, of Westminster Bridge, London Bridge, Islington, Grenfell Tower, and Manchester, in excess of 25,000 people have been diagnosed with PTSD. So all these things are going on in my head, and I thought, let's do something about this. But I don't want to do 22 press-ups a day for a whole year. I can't do it. I'd be bored out of my brain. I don't want people, who's going to watch me? Where am I going to get that story from? So we thought, okay, well, I've been going to the gyms for about in my mid-30s. My younger son was a qualified gym instructor. Between us, we can come up with a variety. So let's make it every session, because it can't be every day, because you can't do things every day. Why stress myself on this? We'd make it something different. And let's see if we can go through the whole 365 with a different exercise.
Okay.
But then again, it's going to be boring. I'd be bored. So we'll get to session 100, and we'll do 30 reps. Okay, that's easy. My wife's going, Okay, we'll see. Then I said, well, what happens then? Well, 200, let's make it 40 reps. And then the challenge is at day 300 or session 300, make it 50 reps.
Right.
Okay, that's going to be interesting. That's the challenge. Okay. And I kept putting it on social media. And what I would say, this is the 365 challenge, raise awareness of the effects of PTSD on mental health. And all of a sudden, I'm getting messages through Instagram. What is the challenge? Can I take part? What are the rules? I'm going, okay, rules.
People love to be part of a community.
Yeah, what rules? I'm going to come up with rules. Okay. Rule 1, no nominations. If you want to take part, please do.
Right.
If you want you want your friends to take part, please do. Do it because you enjoy doing it, not because you feel you have to do it.
Yeah.
Rule 2, do not ask anyone for a penny.
Yeah.
How often do we go around, you come to, oh, I'm doing the London to Brighton bike ride, oh, I'm running the marathon, I'm doing the 5 Peaks challenge, I'm doing whatever.
Yeah.
You can't keep asking people for money.
So this is an awareness campaign, right?
Totally awareness campaign. That's how it started.
Yeah.
And it's great. So, well, can we have T-shirts? Yeah, right. So I was very lucky. One of the banks said, okay, we'll give you some T-shirts, David. So they did. It was great. And the gym I go to has said, actually, we love what you're doing. Can you come? Why don't you come and do it? So I said, okay. And it was great. And all of a sudden I got a phone call from the manager. And she said, David, what are you saying? Why? Just tell me what you're saying. I go, okay. I said, this is 365 challenge, raising awareness of PTSD and effects of mental health with association with the fabulous people at the gym, Watford. And it's available at any other gyms you want to go to. Don't worry about it. Anyway, so she said, start laughing. I said, why laugh? She said, I keep getting phone calls from head office. Why are people talking about Watford and Kuala Lumpur and Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh? I didn't know this was happening. All of a sudden we looked at the figures, and from around about 1,000 views a month, we're up to about 25 to 30. What? This is ludicrous.
When was this?
This was about a year later.
Oh, okay.
We're now up to 100,000 views a month.
Mm-hmm.
I can't comprehend these figures. But when I got to the end of the 365, I said, what are you going to do now? We'll just carry on, we'll call it the blast. But we make it a bit more light-hearted.
Yeah.
So on a Friday, my wife and I, or my son and I, we have fun. We have Frivolous Friday. And this is 2.5 minutes of sheer stupidity. It can be a pillow fight, a water fight. We've done Morris dancing. We've done the Highland Fling in pink tutus.
Okay.
In fact, tonight we're doing Greek dancing, our version of Greek dancing, because someone says it's David-fied. I can't follow instructions for dance, so it ends up with me doing my own thing. And we find that people enjoy those even more. How stupid can we make it?
Well, of course, you've got Instagram video now, which is over a minute. So you know you've got the opportunity.
Well, it goes on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, obviously Facebook, any social media, and we're very fortunate people are taking it up. And what's happening is they're showing their own films around the world.
Yeah,
it's great.
So are you educating people about PTSD and what it is, and because we've talked about this already, that it's not just veterans? Do you have a website where you're pointing people to and explaining all?
Just talking about it doesn't help. People have to know where they can get help.
Yes.
Going back to Manchester, these are children who've witnessed atrocities. They'll never be children again, but they can't be treated half by the NHS because they're outside the remit, the box. So on the website, and I continually update it, are details of counsellors who will help. And it's not just traditional counsellors.
No.
There are people, there are mindful, there are the lady called Kim Weimer who does quantum physics and mental health, mental awareness. There's a chiropractor. There's all these different people who say part of what we can do, if you've got a mental condition, a pain, that pain is going to manifest somewhere else. Yeah. It could be a bad back.
Well, this is, and it's quite interesting because if you're listening to this, and I know lots of practitioners, and I specifically know people that are trauma relief specialists, and so you know those people could get in touch with you and be listed on your website as well. Because, you know, this is a massive problem.
But it's not. The website I'm honoured about is I've got people, cancer charities said, could you share our details on your website?
Yeah.
Yes. How much? Absolutely nothing. I've got grief counsellors. I met a charity that raises awareness for grief for children, orphan children. And we said we've got to be working together. And all this has done is triggered more, coming off from different angles from what we're doing.
And so how can people connect with you other than that? So you've got a Facebook page.
We've got our Facebook page, which obviously is the 365 Challenge for Stroke PTSD.
Yeah.
We have Twitter, and it's at Bogfather.
Bogfather, okay.
Bald, old git, who's a father. My son's called me that one. Try to explain that one. And we've got YouTube,
yeah,
Instagram. Now, I would make a plea, please, on Instagram. I like hearing from people, it's lovely. But for young ladies in their 20s who seem to be enhanced, who think that I'm interested as a 60-year-old man, it's inappropriate behaviour, please stop.
Okay, and so your website, we'll put your website up as well.
www.365challenge.org.uk.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much for joining us today here in Chelsea.
Can I ask a favour, Jim?
Yes, of course.
Would you please keep doing what you're doing, making a difference?
Thank you very much. Well, that's what BYP TV is all about. So we'll see you again on the Vitality Hour. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.